Who did you kick it with in Detroit?
My brothers are the American Nazi Party. I've always been raised to run with the white boys. That's how my dad was. That's how our family is. I've got family and everything that are Hispanic. Got friends that are black. The school thing would be cool.
Sir, I've known you for a long time. I don't know where to begin. But I know many, many years ago, you told me about your case, and it sounded like something out of a Hollywood movie. And many people rolled their eyes when you said, "Hey, this is what I'm in here for." And it turns out today we just found the paperwork.
Yeah.
There was always a conundrum about you, because they said, "Man, that motherfucker's cool, but he tell these wild ass stories. But he's fucking cool though."
I tell him, I ain't bullshit.
Said,
You
nah,
can have it looked up.
That's just a homie. He tell wild ass stories, dog. So why don't we begin at the beginning of one of these wild ass stories? How'd you end up where I met you? I met you in Walsenburg, huh?
You met me in Walsenburg in 2005?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so back in April of 2001, I lived in Price, Utah. I had gone up to Utah with my dad's family because I'd gotten in trouble in Arizona when I was a kid. And I ended up in trouble. My dad died when I was 17. And I really started acting up. I went to prison at 19 in Utah for an aggravated motor vehicle theft. And well, while I was going to court on that, the judge had released me on bail. I took off on bail, and the bail bondsman came with the cops, and they picked me up. And they took me to jail. Damnedest thing happened. I remember them driving me into that garage. They were uncuffing me to search me against the wall. And these two guys start fighting in the booking area. Well, the cops go running in there to break it up. Well, I looked over my shoulder, and the garage door was still open. So yeah, I just dipped, ran out the door, ran up over the parking lot to the alcohol center next door, bombed down to the little fucking state highway right there, because it's between Provo and it goes to Springville. Ran down to this gas station, called my cousin and told him to come and pick me up at the park back there, and I ran back to the park and hid in the trees and watched some cops drive around and drive around and drive around for hours looking for me. I mean, probably at least 5 or 6 cop cars. Finally, they quit looking around, and I see my cousin's little V-Dub van come cruising down the road. He finally parks in the parking lot, and I make my way down out of the trees. It's starting to get dark. I walk over and I hop in his van, and he said, "Man, there was cops everywhere." I said, "I know, I've been sitting here watching them, and I've seen you drive by about 20 times. So I got in the van, and he was like, "What are we doing?" And I said, "Take me to Phoenix. Get me out of Utah." So I dipped on that, and I was still wanted for court for the stolen car. I beat someone up, took their car because they owed me money for drugs. And when I was a kid, I was real stupid. I thought I was bringing Phoenix, Provo, and Price, Utah. It was a whole different world up there. I mean, I used to trip out on them because it was like when I moved up there, I felt like they were 15 years behind the times, And we acted like fools. And then when I moved up to Utah, my dad, he was working on the trailer one day, and we had a fight. And I came back to my auntie's house to her crying. Me and my cousin had gone camping up the canyon. I'm like, "What's going on?" She said, "Your dad died last night." I said, "What?" And I kind of went into a haze. From that point on, I didn't remember a lot of what was going on for at least a couple of months. It was just kind of surreal. Going through stuff. They're doing probate on my dad's stuff. Trying to get any of your property. family just to the point of saying sorry that they're annoying. And I kind of just snapped. And I was like, yeah, I'm done. Screw you guys. I don't care. I grabbed all my shit and took off in a car and went down to Phoenix. When I got down to Phoenix, I didn't even go see my family down there. I went straight to my dad's people, the clubhouse, you know.
Not over
Got a torch. Went straight to the clubhouse. Walked in, they were all giving their condolences because they'd all showed up to my dad's funeral. We had an entire procession of bikers from Arizona going around my dad's funeral while they were doing a 21 gun salute for military honors. Then my grandma got the flag. I've got all my dad's dress uniforms still. My mom has them in a safe deposit. But they took me back from the funeral. I was a pallbearer, and I really didn't even feel nothing. I don't remember a lot of the funeral. When we got down there, my uncle, they're all related to the Dalton clan. You laugh, and they look just like the Daltons. Got a beard this long, about this tall. Wears a big fucking hat. He's a mountain man. He poaches. He's at the funeral, and him and his wife Patty walk up, and they give me a hug, and Patty says, come over to the house afterwards, and we'll smoke a joint. I was like, sounds like a good idea. So I went over there, had my buddy drop me off, left everyone else, let my grandma go home. I just walked out of the funeral. And I went over there, smoked a couple of joints with him. Uncle Wayne looked at me and said, anything I can help you with? Yeah. So he looked at me and went in his room and came out. Handed me the keys to this 550 Enduro that he had outside. Gave me like $300 and an ounce of weed. And said, well, be careful. He said, anything else you need? Told him, if there is, I'll let you know. I took off and went to Arizona. And that's when I went and saw all my dad's people, you know. Got their condolences, and they asked me what I wanted. And I said, well, I want to live life as much as I can, the fastest way that I can at this point in time. So they knew what I was talking about. And they said, well, how much you want to take? Told them, give me 50. And I took 50 pounds on an Enduro back up to Price, Utah.
Speed.
Yep. And then me and my cousin, see, back in the 90s when I moved up to Utah, they were like 10 years behind the times. So they were paying $1,000 for a pound of good swag weed. In Arizona, I could get a pound for $150.
But it was also felony. Utah was a felony. Right?
Yeah, but the thing is they treat marijuana different than they do other drugs because they're higher classes of felonies. Their big thing is the drug-free school zones. So that's an automatic sentence enhancer. And because of all their churches and stuff, there's almost nowhere that you can go that you're not in a drug-free zone. Public access area where a child could be, which is like a national forest.
Anywhere there might be children.
Yeah, but they caught me a couple of times, and they always dropped it down. I got busted with 12.5 pounds of weed when I was a teenager and walked away with a Class A misdemeanor, which was a year in jail and a $1,500 fine.
I had a friend who told me,
as long as it's not packaged separately.
He said
mine was all one big chunk, so they didn't trip.
He said he could
if it's
run
packaged
around,
separately, it's packaged for sales.
He
The
said,
Mormons are a trip. But, you know, anyways.
Where are we at? Yeah, back to the story. I'll cut that part out. It don't matter. We can always bullshit if we sidetrack them.
So, they gave me 50 pounds of dope that I took back to Utah on an Enduro motorcycle. You know how long of a ride that is? From Phoenix through Las Vegas, over the Hoover Dam, up through Zion National Park. On an Enduro, dude. It's a 550. I can do like $110 on it wide open. but it doesn't have a very thick tank. So I had a little gas can, a little 5-gallon can that was taped up underneath the fucking handlebars over the fender. And then I had these bags, I had Harley bags hanging off the sides of this little enduro tank. They're pretty much dragging on the ground. I fold them up as much as I could and pull the straps back. I got 50 pounds of dope. And I'm on this fucker, and before I left, they wouldn't let me take it without a gun, so they gave me a .357 Bulldog.
Oh, a little one.
Yeah.
A little one.
A little 5-shot Saturday night special revolver.
But it's a .357, so it's like that.
No, it's like this. It's a 5-shot revolver. I like the new Taurus Bulldogs. The hammerless ones, they're tight.
I like Tauruses.
It was on the news. Fucking they raided her house because he was red and white. He was a red and white supporter, so was the neighbor behind him. And he got in a fight with his roommate, and his roommate hit him twice, and he got up and he beat the shit out of him, and his chick had to stop him. And when he stopped, he was like, "Oh, I don't feel good." And he said, "I'm gonna go get some air." He walked outside. On the other side of the driveway, there's these giant boulders. And he sat down on one of the boulders, and 2 minutes later, he killed over it and had a heart attack.
Which one? The dude who beat the dude up?
The dude who...
Or the dude who got beat
The dude
up?
whose chick it was, so he beat up his roommate.
Yeah.
His roommate pieced him.
He beat dude
When
up.
he first brought it to him, dude pieced him twice and dropped him.
Oh.
And he got up. He felt like dude was disrespecting his lady. And dude two-pieced him, and then he got up. And he stomped the living dog shit out of that fool. He kicked the door completely off the hinges, going in the room after this dude picked him up by his neck. He was about 310 pounds. Picked him up by his neck and was strangling him and slammed him into the ground. Started putting boots to him. And his chick stopped him. And he went outside and sat down on the fucking boulder and killed over, had a heart attack and died. This just happened a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, he said he was 300 pounds.
Yeah, but he was a major speed freak too, so when the cops showed up, because dead body and shit, they just entered the premises illegally because he was outside. They went through and they found a bunch of syringe caps and syringes and shit, and they destroyed the whole house. Found some other like dope paraphernalia pipes and shit, but they didn't find anything major, you know. That's where that vest came from. She gave it to me when I helped her repaint her house. But anyways, yeah, it was kind of funny.
So you head to Utah with 50 pounds.
Yeah, and I got to Provo, and went and grabbed my cousin, and I said, "Look, you're the one really in the scene out here. I don't know nothing about these fools, but we're about to turn them on their heads." He said, "Okay." At the time I'd moved up to Utah, they were still buying peanut butter crank, bathtub crank, brown, nasty, ugly bullshit. They didn't even, this was before dudes even really thought about smoking this shit. They pretty much just snorted it or smoked it off. I went up there and I looked at them and I was like, "So introduce me to some of these fools." I showed them what I had. I said, "This stuff that looks like wet sugar, this is what they call probe." I said,
P2P.
"Yeah, this is the stuff that will make a motherfucker's head spin a quarter gram."
Gas.
Like I used to give my sister a quarter gram.
It
of
literally
that,
smelled like gas, I remember.
It smelled like cat piss.
Yeah.
Cat piss and
Like
kerosene.
Ammonia.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a fuel. It smelled
Cat
like
piss
fuel.
and kerosene. And it was really oily. If you melt it down in a glass and it cracks back, all it does is crack back clear, and if you'll hold it up to the light, it looks like rainbows because it's phosphorescent. Yeah. So we went up there and I sat down and looked at this dude, and he's like, "Bah, bah, 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 bah," and he's smoking it on foil. He's waiting on his dude. I said, "Well, what are you paying for that?" He said, "Like $1,200 a zip." And I'm just thinking, ka-ching, $1,200 a zip. Holy shit, I'm paying that for 4 times that much. I said, "Well, check this out." Threw a zip in front of him and told him, "Try some of that. And if you like it, I'll sell it to you at the same price. Because this is way better. You know, I get like that when you talk about that shit.
I know.
Yeah, well, I've been doing this shit for over 20 years. I know what I'm doing. So, alright. So he takes a big old scoop, throws it in the spoon. He draws that shit up, and I watch this fool hit it, and I'm looking at him laughing. He stood up, and he goes, and you see the lights go out. It went from his feet to the top of his head. It was a bing. Said, told you. Watch this dude twitch for a second. What's going on, little buddy? We got a really cool dog with us. But anyway, and that didn't work out well. This is how I caught my case in Utah. So this dude owed me like probably $4,000. And I found out where he just moved to. And me and my cousin drove over there in the middle of the night. Now, mind you, my cousin is one of the biggest freaks of nature I've ever seen. At 16 years old, he's little bud, my uncle's big bud. Big bud's almost 7 foot. My cousin's like 6'6". At 14, 15 years old, he stood 6'2", weighed about 240. And I'd be like, come on, we gotta go do something. He's just a big dog. So he went with me, and we went over to dude's house, and I saw this brand new Mitsubishi Eclipse in the driveway with a dealer's tag in it. I was like, huh. And he owes me money, that might be mine. Walked up and knocked on the door. He answered the door, and I smiled, and he tried to close the door, and my cousin kicked the door, and boom! Walked in, tied him up, and I told him, now check this out, dude. You owe me some money, and I'm gonna take this car. Where's your paperwork and your keys? He was like, no. And I told my cousin, break his fingers. He broke his fingers, and then I kicked him in the face. And I'm like, where's your keys? So he finally gave them to me. And I told my cousin, you can have anything else in the house that you find that you want. And we were taking off and out of the driveway. My cousin went to the truck, and I got in that car, and I was backing out. His neighbor was standing outside, this little old lady. And I just kept backing out, drove right out, took off. We took the car over to one of my friend's house, put it in a car trailer, and they took it to Vegas. Well, 3 days later, they arrested me for aggravated motor vehicle theft. Now, even though he didn't testify, Utah has this weird law to where if the county, if it's been reported stolen at all, the county can pursue the charges and follow up with it, which is what they did with me. They hit me with that, and when I got out on OR is when I got the escape, and I took off to Phoenix. They busted me in Phoenix like 6 months later in a raid at one of my buddy's houses. I was laying in the lazy boy recliner in the living room when they came in, and they knew exactly who I was because I grew up out there, you know. So they extradited me back, and that's how I got my first prison sentence in Utah. 0 to 5 years. Utah only has 3 classes of felonies. First, second, and third degree. First degree is 5 to life. Second degree is 1 to 15. And third degree is 0 to 5. And that's it. So when you get sentenced out there, they don't sentence you like they do out here on a 16 to 48 to like 30. It's up to the parole board. So when you go to prison out there, the governor is part of the parole board, and it's actually called a board of pardons and parole. They can give you an immediate release and walk you out the door that day. Or they can just set a date out. It's a revolving door out there. It's not hard to get out of prison. I paroled on my 0 to 5 3 different times. And then I killed it, and that's when I went to Price, and all this shit happened. Robert had come up to see me in Provo. I was up there with the chick I knew from Helper, the fat girl Melissa. The one that got arrested with me, they actually gave her 21 years, and I got 30, and she was only 21 years old. So I believe she's back home in Utah. We stayed in touch for a while, and then she got caught up in the lesbian gay families and stuff, so I was like, I'm cool. But yeah, I mean, I felt bad for her, and then she seemed to love that shit too much, was trying to act too gangster, and I was like, yeah, I'm cool. Bye. But, you know, I know she should be off paper too, but yeah, I started bringing all that stuff down to Price, had the fellas coming and seeing me in Price from Phoenix. because I killed that sentence and I went down there and I just made a call. I said, I'm not driving. So about every 3 weeks they'd come up and see me up there. And Price is a bad area in Utah. That's actually where the headquarters department for the DEA is in Utah because of the highways coming out of Colorado and stuff. And then my buddy Rob got out of prison and he asked me if I could help him hit a lick so he could try to get ahead. And I took him with me. We picked up from the drop shop and took off. And Melissa, she was kind of like my chick at the time. You know, I used to have her as a driver because she had a clean record and was innocent looking. And we took off and shit just got crazy. Yeah, we started shooting dope. And when we started shooting dope, it was like, okay, other mission kind of status, you know. We're going to make this happen no matter what. I'm not going to answer to those boys because their shit didn't get to where it was supposed to get. You know what I mean? And Rob was all full on with it, and Melissa was just like trying to be a little rider chick, you know. But we ended up going out to Price, and his buddies wouldn't help him out when his truck broke down. So he got pissed off, and that's how we ended up robbing that house out there. He's the one that went in. I didn't go in. I just showed him where to go in. I saw the open window. I was like, there's an open window. And he was like, I'll be back. All right. I'll be right here. And he just started throwing guns and bows and all kinds of shit out the window. I'm like, all right. Hey, start grabbing this shit and stacking it over there. I mean, what else am I going to say? So we took all that shit. And at this time, we still didn't have the truck. I think he was just kind of, I'm taking this now. It's mine because it was guns. And I wasn't carrying that shotgun any further in the big pouch. It had the big solid case. It was 2 shotguns that were broke down. I was like, yeah, fuck this. Threw it off in the bushes. He was like, yeah, what are you doing? I said, I ain't carrying that motherfucker. Fuck that.
Cheesy shotguns.
Yeah,
Not
the
worth it.
Winchesters.
Just old bullshit.
Side by side 12 gauges. It's like,
$100.
what do you want for these?
Yeah, $100 is all you're gonna get.
I mean, if it was an SR-72 with a 25-round drum or something, yeah, okay, I'll definitely hump this. But I'm not doing it like that. I'll strap it over my back and we can go, you know. But then we ended up hiking out to this area, and he's like, I know where there's some vehicles. And we went to this roustabout. Went over there in the middle of the night because he said ain't no one there, like it said. Remember? They didn't even know that vehicle was gone. Because they have so many of those roustabout trucks and they're sent all over to do maintenance on the gas rigs and the oil rigs. So he went and he was having a lot of trouble starting this truck. He told me, I'll go get it. Go down and it's a Ford and he's got all the collar peeled off and stuff. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? It's like a 98, 96. And I said, let me see this. And I pulled out a screwdriver and I knocked the pin out of the ignition and shoved the screwdriver in it and turned it. And let's go. He looked at me. He was like, I didn't know you could do that. I said, you told me you had this. Anyways, yeah, so we humped all the shit over to the truck. I ended up leaving it out with Melissa over this ditch because I wasn't hauling it through the water. We drove the truck out. Melissa got in the truck, and Rob was driving, and he put the 22 on the floorboard right there. And her dumbass just wanted to look at the gun or something. She picked it up, and it went off. Pop! I'm sitting next to her. I said, did you just shoot yourself? She's like, I don't think so. No, I said, no, you shot yourself. Your foot's leaking. I took her foot and I put it up on the dash and I took off her shoe and it shot right here through the arch membrane where the skin is. Through her foot, just boom, all the way through and through the floorboard of the truck. Told her, well, it's a clean through shot. She was like, I need to go to the hospital. I said, no, you don't. They report gunshot wounds, so we took her up to my buddy's cabin and got this dude to give us some hydrogen peroxide and gauze. And I soaked her foot and wrapped it up and put antibacterial ointment on it, you know, and told her to keep it elevated and put ice on it. Huh? There you go, buddy. Go get him. So, anyways, yeah, we went to the cabin. Then we ended up driving. Rob passed out and almost crashed about Green River. So I started driving the truck. We drove the truck over to Junction. Went and saw a couple of people out in Fruita and stuff and picked up money, you know. And when we were in town, Rob said something about he just talked to someone, and this dude Chad that owes him money was running around out here. He thinks he knows where. I said where. We went running around, couldn't find him, and then I told my uncle, "Hey, get your people together that are all anybody in the groups." He said, "All right." So I got like 10 of them at the house, and I said, "So the first person that turns up this dude to us can have a free zip truck." And this chick looked at me and said, "That's mine." I said, "Well, we'll see, honey." She walks out. About 35 minutes later, we get a phone call. "Yeah, he's over here at so-and-so's house." I said, "Okay, keep him there." Rob says, "So how are we going to do this?" I said, "It's your play, homie. What do you want to do?" He said, "Well, we'll go get him. I don't know if anyone in the house is going to act up." I said, "Well, you take your gun, and I'll take this." And I had a 40 cal. I had a P92. So I jacked around into it and gave Melissa a little 32. And I said, "You just walk in, you cover people. If anybody moves, shoot them in the foot." She was pissed off at me for that. But we walked in there. We walked up to the house, and I checked the door, and it was unlocked. And I told my owner, I said, "You ready?" "Yeah." We got on the other side, and I told Melissa, "Just hang back, come in after us." Threw the door open. He went one way, I went the other, and we just covered everyone in the room. Don't fucking move. Everyone put your hands up and get on the ground. And they all just kind of looked at us. So I took that 40 and I shot the TV. Boom! I said, "Now, motherfuckers!" And they all got down. My buddy walked over and grabbed dude because he was the chick that had called and told us where he was at. Told us she was going to keep him there because she was going to go get him hurt. So I told her, "Good girl." When we walked in, we picked him up. My buddy zip tied his hands and walked him out to the truck. On the front porch, he searched him, got the keys to his car, and I handed the keys to Melissa and said, "Follow us." Turned around, looked at her, and I zipped out of my fucking pocket and flipped it and then landed right in her tits. I said, "You're paid. See ya." And we got in the truck, and she followed us out by the Gunnison River Dam, the roller dams and stuff. They're up by the cemetery and the old police gun shooting range. So we went up there like early morning because it's one of those areas that the cops go out there and shoot for their target training and everything. So if there's gunshots, you know, so what? We waited for her to show up. She parked the car. We searched the car. Rob got whatever he had on him. And then he started talking to him and threatening him. And I was like, "Okay, well, whatever, dude. You gonna leave this fool here or what? We gotta go." And he started arguing with the dude. And all of a sudden you hear, "Pop, pop, pop, pop." And I see this dude fall, and he falls against the side of the truck. I'm like, "Well, fuck. I guess we ain't taking that truck now." Because it's white truck. There's a big old blood smear all the way down the side. And he tried cleaning it off with gas and shit, so he ran the truck into the river, and we ended up taking dude's car and taking off. Put all our shit from the truck in the dude's car. We still had all the fucking weight, too. So we were fucking carrying dope and guns and compound bows and every kind of stupid thing you could ever fucking imagine. And he had dudes' checks, and they were like on a weird account where it really didn't matter because they didn't have his name printed on them, like a new account for checking type thing. And Rob was cashing checks all over, fucking paying for gas, buying beer, a lot of beer, a lot of speed, a lot of beer. Just driving. And he'd pass out and I drive and Melissa drive. She kind of gave us both head. She just kind of became the car whore. but she really tripped out because I thought it was pretty warped. After we killed the dude and dumped the body, we came out the other side fucking on like Palisade or something. And Rob's like, "Are you hungry?" I was like, "Yeah, I could eat." Shouldn't say yes. Melissa, are you hungry? She's like, "You guys are fucking nasty." He said, "What do you want?" I said, "I want a big ass bacon cheeseburger." He said, "Yeah." You know, I grew up in a really rough environment. It isn't the first time I've seen some really bad shit happen, so it didn't really faze me, and she was kind of traumatized. You know, I was like, "Well, I don't know what to tell you. Take a nap."
Sleep it off.
Yeah.
Walk it off.
So we left there, me and Rob ate our burgers, and I tried to get her to eat hers, and she's like, "No," so I ate hers. And then we stopped at some lake. Rob was looking, he had this stupid, he thought he was an outlaw fucking on the run thing now. So he was like, "Well, we gotta fucking go find where there's a RV, like a motorhome or something, so we can take off. It'll be better disguise." He said, "Even if we gotta fucking smoke somewhere to get it," I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely not. If you can steal one, cool." He was like, "Alright." We made it out of Colorado. It was really weird because I told them that I thought we were being followed. When we got to Goodland, Kansas, we got past Lyman. We got to Goodland, Kansas, and we crossed state line, and we went over to this truck stop and went in, got some water and shit. But then when we left, I saw this highway patrol. I was driving. I saw this highway patrol come up on the gas station, and as we were pulling out, he was pulling out like 3 turnouts down further where the semis do. So I just punched it. It was probably 10:30 at night. I just punched it, turned the lights off on the car. Got up to about 110 in that little topaz, and then I kicked on the lights real quick on the brights, and I fucking found one of them sharp dirt turnoffs the farmers used to go through the fields. I locked up the fucking car. I pretty much e-brake slid that bitch and shut the lights off and started driving down the dirt path, and then I stopped and I turned off all the lights and parked. And I watched that cop car go blowing by on the highway. So I drove the rest of the way through the field with no lights. Got out to the dirt road on the other side, went all the way up and around, and got back on the highway and took off. That's where they said that they lost us, but they caught back up to us. I think where they caught back up to us was when Rob was driving and we were getting off the highway in Colby. Because that's when we got spotlighted. That was a bad day. It was, we're really fucked.
Helicopter.
I knew what our situation was, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't want to walk away from that. I really didn't. I was at one of them things of, if they catch me for this, I'm never getting out of prison again. Because, shooting at cops, already have a dead person, multi-state. The feds were a lot of the investigating officers on my case. I remember my discovery, there was 16 KBI agents that were investigating officers on that case. And then there was the ones from Colorado and everything too, and I was like, well, this ain't good. My mom saw it on the news in Arizona. When I called my mom from Kansas, she was like, "Oh my God, baby, what the fuck did you do?" And I said, "Well, apparently not enough." And she told me, "Don't talk like that." I said, "I knew what time it was. I knew where I was at, and I know that I'm in a lot of trouble." When I was arrested in Kansas, they didn't have me charged with just the aggravated assaults on law enforcement. That was their plea down. They originally had me charged with 4 attempted murders on law enforcement, 4 criminal discharge of a firearm, felony evasion, trafficking, possession of weapons by a restricted person, and possession of explosive devices. I was like, oh yeah, I'm pretty screwed. I had $1 million cash bail in Kansas. When we went and I asked for a bond reduction hearing, the judge said absolutely not. I said, what do you mean? He said, with the amount of drugs that were in that vehicle, even though you weren't driving, with the amount of weapons and money that were in that vehicle, he says, I have no doubt that if we drop this to half, you're probably going to get out and we might never see you again. And I'd already talked to my mom and I told her to get a hold of my dad's friends and let them know what kind of trouble I was in. Most they could do was pay for a lawyer. They did pay for a very good lawyer. My lawyer told me do not sign that extradition waiver when it came from Colorado. He said that's a capital case. If you don't fight it, if you fight it and don't go with it, the governor is going to send an order to extradite, which supersedes everything here. He said, and you'd probably walk away a free man from everything out here. I told him, are you sure? He said, not 100%, but they're trying to plea you down to aggravated assault on law enforcement. They had attempted murder because dude got hit in the vest 4 times in the high-speed chase. He pulled up right behind the car and I shot out the window and 4 rounds hit his vest. And they weren't happy about it. I got the shit beat out of me by the cops. I looked like the damn elephant man when they took me in jail. That's when the newspaper wanted to come and take pictures of us for the local paper. I told them, go ahead. Because they beat me within an inch of my life. I passed out in the field where they arrested me because they beat the shit out of me. And I came to being thrown into the back of a cop car and seeing the ambulance and them loading a body bag into the ambulance. And that was when I found out Rob killed himself. I was like, what the fuck? What's going on? And I didn't know. I was actually more worried about Melissa, you know. And they said, no, she's fine. She's in the other vehicle. And your buddy's not gonna make it. He shot himself. I was like, okay. They took us to the jail and they put me in a holding cell without even searching me. They were tripping. I knew they weren't going to question me first. I knew they were going to question her first. They always go after the chick first. And then they made that happen to where the governor's warrant came through. And on the governor's warrant it said first-degree murder, aggravated robbery, conspiracy to commit aggravated robbery, accessory to first-degree murder, felony theft, and 3 violent crime statutes. Bail set at $1 million cash only. I was like, wow, I didn't think I'd ever see anything like that, and I can't believe that I've actually got that, you know. I had $1 million cash bail in Kansas and $1 million cash bail in Colorado. But the extradition thing that I ended up signing for Kansas to release me gave them 2 years because it dismissed charges with prejudice on the grounds that if I got less than 20 years in Colorado, they'd pick up charges and try to pursue them in Kansas. Well, that lawyer was pretty smart. He said there's a fat chance with a case like that you're getting less than 20 years in Colorado. But I ended up getting charged with a second-degree complicity to commit murder because they were trying to blame it on me, and I told them I'm not the one that shot that dude. Said I helped move the body. Yeah. What am I supposed to do? My dude standing there and he just smoked someone in front of me and he's telling me, hey, we need to move this body. Sir, yes, sir. They said, well, why didn't you try to get away from him? I said, why? He just showed me that he's going to make sure no one fucks with us. No, that's all I told them, and they didn't like that. And then when I went to sentencing, we were going to take it to trial because at first they tried to come at me and tell me that it would be a double aggravated second-degree homicide, which would make it so they could charge me higher than the 48-year range. I was like, no. They tried telling me 64 years. I said, yeah, pound that shit in your ass. I'm not going to do that. That's a life sentence. I may as well make you spend every bit of your money to convict me. And this other dude, Michael Blagg, I don't know if you remember about him in 2002. He was the highest level murder story and shit out of the area at the time. It was all over the news. He killed his wife and they found her in a landfill and they never found his daughter. And he was there in jail with me, and his was the most high profile above mine. And then it was me and Melissa, because every time we went to court, all of our mugshots were all over the newspapers and on the news and everything. And we ended up playing out a second-degree complicity. Complicity means that basically they know I knew about it. I didn't try to do anything to stop it, so they were saying I was as guilty as he was. This partnership in a wrongdoing is the definitive term for word for complicity. And that makes it pretty much the same thing, but it was under the pretense that maybe they look at it differently because it's saying that they couldn't say that you had more to do with it, but they're not able to prove it. You know, makes it to where it's above accessory but below the original charge. And I told him, well, what's the sentencing range on that? He said 16 to 48. Said, so a lawyer in Kansas told me I'd probably get high 20s or low 30s. He said, yeah. I went in on sentencing and they sentenced me to 30 years. That's the deal I took because at least I had a chance of getting out again. It circumvented me having to go back to Kansas because it was more than a 20-year sentence. And, you know, I just try to be cool. I mean, in reality, for being affiliated with the people I was affiliated with throughout my prison sentence and all the stuff I was caught up in, I only had 5 major write-ups in 20 years.
What did you kick it with in the joint?
My brothers are the American Nazi Party. That's who I rolled with.
So
I went to Centennial first. Yeah, of course, white people.
The white crowd.
I've always been raised to run with the white boys. That's how my dad was. That's how our family is. I've got family and everything that are Hispanic. Got friends that are black.
All right. So you run with the Woods in the joint.
Yeah.
But
I ran with them on the streets.
Yeah. You were raised that way.
Yeah. With them and bikers, and I mean, I know a lot of gangbangers. I've got family that are gangbangers, but I mean, they do their thing. Not that I don't have my respect for whatever they're doing. They can have whatever's right for them, you know. That's how I am. I've known you for quite a while too, so you know that's always been kind of my attitude. When it's time to make shit happen, then I'll make shit happen. Other than that, I tend to be pretty laid back. But something that even Justin said is over the years, people have always known me to be a very blatantly honest person. I don't, have to worry about what's on my mind. I'll tell you what's up real easy. And people either love me for it or hate me for it. And those that are timid tend to hate me for it because they don't like it. But the people that I know that are the real dudes from way back, they're real about it. They're like, yeah, that's why I've always loved you. You don't have to know what's on my mind. But I'm also a very loyal friend to those who are my friends. I don't take friendship easily. There's a lot of acquaintances out there. Fair weather friends, as my dad used to call them. They're around if you got something for them. If you don't, then they don't know you from Adam. And I know way too many of those guys. It's really disappointing to get out and see some of the guys that were super, super great, solid dudes in there. And out here, they're just turds. They're what they always talked about hating. And that just blows my mind. Because no matter how bad things get, I'll always hold my head high and know that I'm not a dirtbag. I will help those that need help. I don't believe in preying on the weak.
You said the American Nazi Party. That's a political movement, yeah?
Yeah, it's been around for a long time. A lot of famous people involved with it. You know who Rockwell is, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
George Lincoln Rockwell.
That's who we were talking. That's what I was trying to remember earlier in the car.
Yeah, there's George Lincoln
When
Rockwell.
you said David Duke, I
David
was
Duke.
trying to remember Rockwell.
David Duke wrote.
He ran for president.
Yeah, he was from down south. He was Klan, and like, you know what a Christian identity is? You remember Christian identity in DOC? So Christian identity is basically the prerequisite to being a Klansman. And he ran with those guys, but he was a very smart man. I've read a lot of his stuff that makes me smirk, pisses a lot of people off. But there's views I agree with and views I don't agree with. It's just like all the Robert Greene stuff. No, it was Robert Greene, right? 48 Laws of Power, all that stuff. I read a lot of them. All of it I just felt was bite-offs from Sun Tzu and Carl Jung and everything. And I like Nietzsche. A lot of people don't like that I like Nietzsche because he's a very misogynistic prick. But hey, it's cool. I like his views. But we were required to read so much stuff like it. There's a book called The Behemoth. And it's about the National Socialist movement. And that's more what the American Nazi Party is about. We don't hate monger. Of course, we all hate certain people. Even those who say they aren't biased or racist. If they end up in prison around certain environments, they agree. I have had multiple people agree. There's a huge difference between the terminology that's used. Like, to me, your stereotypical nigger is a person that cries and whines and acts like everybody owes them something because of the color of their skin. Like they're not a capable man that can get up and make things for themselves and not have an excuse for failing. But the educated black man that doesn't like that and doesn't approve of it, and that are respectable people, I have a lot of respect for them. I have a lot of friends that are like that. I respect men that are like that. I understand them, you know, but they don't sit and cry and whine. They believe in making their own way. They ain't gonna sit there and say, oh, it's all Whitey's fault. Yeah, you can hate on us all you want. You've been as capable as you want all your life. Now, if you just speak of the Ebonics because you don't want to educate yourself, it's kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger said when he was governor of California and they tried applying to make Ebonics a state-recognized language. He said, absolutely not. I came from Austria and learned English. You can learn to speak it correct, too. I mean, just because you're down and out, folk, doesn't mean you're special. Take the time to raise yourself up. That's what everything in life teaches everyone. The greatest wars in mankind's history were fought over religion. And if you take away the face of what a lot of it is and just look at the teaching, they pretty much all teach the same thing. Betterment of life. I said, nah, it's basic terminology. I mean, you're in a cage. It's survival of the fittest. If it's me or them, you better believe I'm going to be the one walking away.